There are two things that I want to thank you for. First of all, heading on over to patreon.com/Duckfeed.tv. If you have already done so and you're one of our patrons, that's awesome. If not, please consider doing so. We're very close to our next milestone goal, which specifically helps us get a separate computer and mixer for third guests. So most of the time it's just me and Cole, but we want our third guest to sound better, and we have really awesome guests lined up this season. Next week, starting with Vadi Vidya, and the caliber is as far as notoriety is higher than it's been any other season. The other thing we want to thank you for is excusing the fact that I have a dryer going on in the background, and my cat is incessantly mewing prior to this. Both those things, eternal thanks. And on to the show.
Some of our landings were desperate adventures. We are now prepared to meet the inevitable counterattacks with power and with confidence.
My name is Gary Butterfield.
My name is Kole Ross.
And you're listening to Bonfireside Chat. It is a bloody, beastly favorite.
And this week we are reading responses to the intro to Bloodborne. For anybody who is not aware of what the Appendix episodes are, we really value listener participation. People who listen to the show and play along see things that we don't see, and we want to hear those stories. So what you're going to be hearing through this is people who have responded to us either on Facebook or have gone to Duckfeed.tv/contact and written in.
Yeah. Absolutely. And if you would like to join them, if you have things to say about the next area we're talking about, which is Central Yarnum, up through the first boss, hit us up through either of those channels.
Yeah.
So before we get started, we have a quick little giveaway.
Yeah. Our good friend Stella King, who does a wonderful job helping promote us on Twitter. Thank you, Stella King. You're fantastic. He writes in saying, knowing you gents have a fondness for the fedora, I thought you'd be thrilled with this. Here's a spare code for the Fedora Messenger skin. It is Europe, UK/PAL territories DLC only, please note. It is verified as valid, and it might be useful to one of the listeners. So I'm going to read this code out, and it is first come, first serve.
Yeah, go for it.
4NH-EGNT-6838. Do you want me to give that again?
I think it's a podcast. People can hit the 30 seconds back button.
Yes, they can.
Pretty easily. So scramble for that fedora, you necklords.
Necklord.
Necklords.
Like a Tim Burton creature. Like, yes, the necklord.
The
Should be giraffe.
One thing you should know if you are new to this is that Stella King is not being sarcastic at all, and that Cole and I both have a fine and extensive collection of gentlemen's hatwear. And one of the reasons why we like to wear fedoras is because I think it makes us look not at all like somebody playing pathetically at an affected
version
anachronism,
of manliness.
You know?
Yeah,
like anachronistic man fantasy.
Fantasy
number 12. Yeah, first appearance of the giant-sized man thing. The I don't actually care for fedoras, and also if I like the idea that he's giving this away. If you guys want your little guys to be tiny little Skella necklords, that's fine. I would not dress my messengers in a fedora.
Yeah, I prefer the stately top hat.
I feel like I can see a top hat. I feel like hats are being ruined. Like not a day goes by that somebody I don't like doesn't wear a hat and become iconic for it.
Yeah.
Like there's so few hats left.
Well, you live in Crazy Hat Central, USA, too.
Well, that's true. I was just thinking about it on Twitter and stuff, but like I walk outside. I live in Portland, Oregon, so I walk outside and just like, oh, fuck you, fuck you, fuck you. Like, it's like a constant stream of fuck you to the hats.
Whereas I live in Cincinnati, and because I work downtown, I have to drive past Red Stadium every day. And because it is now the spring and baseball season has started up, anybody who's wearing a Reds hat and walking on the sidewalk could potentially just dart out in front of traffic because they're trying to get to the stadium. So
yeah, I got to get there in time to see all the baseballs.
Yeah, I know, right?
Like, geez.
Yeah.
So hats, yay for messengers, bad for humans. If you wear a fedora, don't be offended.
And you know
it's a stereotype. It's one of those things where if like somebody says, "Hey, you live in Portland, you must be a shitty vegetarian, unicycle douchebag." I'm not going to be like, that's not me, so I'm not going to be offended by it. But it is a stereotype that I share one aspect with.
The object itself has no inherent power. It is the interpretation and the stereotype. that,
Yes.
that creeps about. And if you can pull off a fedora or a hat, then more power to you, because you have a normal proportioned head and not a planetarium like I have. So
Yeah, or like most of these dudes have, who wear these things.
Yeah.
I like it's a planetarium. That makes me think of your head with like hundreds of little ion stone like coal heads orbiting it.
Well, Gary, at least 3 times a week, I dream about Laser Floyd. So
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So yeah, thanks, Stella King.
yeah.
So we're on to some just kind of quick responses we have. Tom Servo on Facebook says, this game has a sword that you can stick into a tombstone to become a hammer. How is this not the only topic of the show? We have a special plan for it. So
yeah, we have a 7-episode arc.
yeah, the pretty rad. And that weapon actually is pretty awesome. That he's talking about. It was one of the first ones I got as well. Yeah. After like only 7 hours in.
Brandon Goodrich writes in via Facebook saying, "I've recently been doing a re-listen of The Level, another show here on the network, and I hit the episode where Cole bemoaned a listener not wanting to name a character Cole. I believe I didn't want to have them name a character Cole. So Brandon goes on to say, as such, my first character is Kole Ross, and he wields a threaded cane and some sweet-ass steampunk goggles.
And get him a fedora. And then you can just make like negative universe Cole. You can't make one of the things about this game is I was trying to, when I see a character creation thing, one of the first things I try to do is make somebody who looks like me just to do it. And you can't really do it in this game because you can't make men of carriage. Like everyone is such a wasting waif that I couldn't make anybody with my kind of thunder gut.
Yeah, but they beard game on point.
Yeah, the beard game's really good.
Yeah.
Which is really good. So yeah, you could make a little Cole, like a little steampunk Kole Ross. What event in your past would have had to have happened for that to be the real Kole Ross?
You know what? I think I would have had to fall into a different crowd in college. By which I mean any crowd at all, as opposed to immediately becoming a shut-in who communicated only by radio.
There you go. You heard it here, folks, new listeners. So yeah, on to responses about the area, the clinic and spooky intro. Jeremy Greer says via Facebook, on my second playthrough, I decided to kill the first werewolf using only my kung fu. As you know, your fists do hardly any damage, so if you rely on basic dodge attack strats, it will take forever. However, if you manage to bait it into a charge, get behind it for a charged R2/backstab, you can take it out in 2 or 3 hits. I can't imagine a better way to start a second playthrough. I also want to say how much I love knocking on doors and talking to NPCs, even though I missed actually meeting them entirely. It's such a cool mechanic throughout the game.
Yeah.
Jeremy runs the Dark Souls Haters blog, so darksoulshaters.tumblr.com, I believe, and you should check that out if you are immune to seeing slurs.
Yes,
because it's a lot of soul. It's exclusively for Souls hate mail, which is not always very imaginative.
Yeah.
So.
Other than that, Jeremy is a frequent guest and a totally cool dude. Watch out for him on the Facebook group.
Yeah, absolutely, and good points. I killed the wolf this most recent time, but I was disappointed you don't get anything.
Yeah. Womp womp. Jeff writes in via contact saying, besides starting as Matchop, one of the things that struck me about the first areas of Bloodborne is how dark it is. This may be an old harp, but the lighting system downgrade in Dark Souls 2 was a disappointment. The start of Bloodborne sets a precedent for the aesthetic difficulty of perception, something that eventually had me carrying a torch in one hand as opposed to a gun for the majority of my playthrough.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah.
And that continues throughout the game. And one of the ways they can get away with that, so like if you think about the way that they originally planned to do Dark Souls 2, it was always supposed to be this trade-off between a torch and a shield. One of the reasons they can make Bloodborne so dark, I think, is that the trade-off is very easy to make. Like not having your gun isn't that big of a deal.
Yeah.
So you can make things really dark and make you have your torch out most of the time. The other kind of point to this I want to make is that people who generally, if you have a Dark Souls 2 playthrough left in you, pick up the Scholar remake because it's dark as hell. It is the original lighting that we wanted. Like the areas from the trailers and stuff, like the whole thing isn't dark because that wouldn't make any sense. But it is dark as hell. So
yeah, it's fantastic. Give it a shot. It's super easy to buy on PC if you have it through Steam. So
yeah, and it's $20 if you have it through Steam. So
yeah, cool. Robin Gilmore via Facebook. Hey, Robin. Says, trying to kill that first beast in the clinic with my bare hands was impossible because I was laughing too hard to properly attack and dodge. This is a battle where you are obviously supposed to lose, and a wonderful return to Demon Souls' way of the world. and then to be followed up by an area that felt like the Nexus had been attacked by a horde of landscape gardeners was an added bonus. I don't think I've spent so much time trying to interact with an inanimate doll in a video game. It was driving me nuts and felt slightly creepy.
It was slightly creepy. Everyone is picking up this like chop motion that you do with your hands. I didn't like that. Didn't stand out as much to me as it did to everyone else.
No, so like the start out, like the fact that you like when you're barefisted, you kind of act like your hands are together holding something, like you're fighting like a lost sinner, right? Is that what they're latching onto? Or
I don't know. Specifically, they're talking about like in this game when you first start out and you have like you do chops, you don't do punches. You know, you do literally like side swipes.
Weird. Yeah, I didn't notice that.
Yeah. I didn't. It didn't affect me that much. Like I did notice it, but it wasn't like, it wasn't huge to me. But other people noticed it more. But yeah, it is awesome that they have this kind of encounter you're supposed to die in. When we eventually cover the again, just to bring it back to Dark Souls 2, because people aren't sick of that at all. When we actually do the Design Works thing, that was originally going to be in, that is a From Software tradition. It was originally going to be in Dark Souls 2, and they cut it out.
Yep.
Which for the worse. Like I'm not defending that as a decision, just saying that I think it was supposed to be a through line throughout all of their games.
Yeah.
Sean says via contact, the opening of Bloodborne immediately set me up for the fact that this was not a Dark Souls game. The opening cinematic that establishes the history of Lordran is gone. As Cole said in the first season, the opening cinematic of Dark Souls is one of the only objective sources for information in the game, and something that Bloodborne forgoes entirely. After establishing that blood is everything in Yharnam, the game has the audacity to end this dialogue with, "Whatever happens, you may think it all a mere bad dream," effectively calling into question the reality of anything that you do afterwards, aka the entire game. This is only reinforced by the Wolf Beast and Messenger cutscene, which I believe is symbolic of being infected with the Scourge and the Messengers intervening before you're overtaken. This entire opening stands in stark contrast to the objective opening of Dark Souls, and From is pushing you to question the validity of everything, leaving you with only a single note: seek pale blood in order to transcend the hunt. Of course, you leave this room and are most likely to die to the Wolf Beast and wake in the Hunter's Dream, which appears to be a lovely place. However, From would not be satisfied with letting you have one place, even a dream, that feels secure and objectively nice. Inside the workshop, a note describes the Hunter's Dream as dreadful, and in order to escape it, stop the source of the Scourge, lest the night carry on forever. This, combined with Gerben's creepy doll line, tinges this refuge with mystery and suspicion. The opening boils down to mystery and confusion, and it gave me an insatiable thirst to find out more about this world and gain insight into what's going on in Yharnam. In contrast to Dark Souls, which gives you some basic world information and a simple goal to ring a bell, Bloodborne not only offers very little information, but actively casts doubt about what little it gives, and tells you to seek pale blood, halt the source of the Scourge, collect blood, and go out and hunt some beast. It's all amazingly disorienting, especially for somebody trying to closely follow what's going on. From knows how people enjoy their games, and I can't help but feel that this opening is playing with us for those of us who enjoy this series for its lore and story by obfuscating anything that could be concrete information. To top it all off, Gerben's final introductory line saying, "You're sure to be in a fine haze now, but don't think too hard about all this. Just go out and kill a few beasts, it's for your own good," solidifies for me the intentionality of this confusion and is a very cheeky line shot right at the player.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good insight.
Yeah.
Sean? Yeah.
I don't know that I have anything really to add to that.
No, I mean, it bears out too. Like, I don't want to talk about it too much, but the thesis bears out, at least. I think so.
Yeah, in a satisfying way. And, for anybody who is kind of like partway through this, the disorientation is very much intentional. And for as frustrating as it might be in the moment, like most things related to this series, pain and confusion now leads to satisfaction later.
Yes.
So this next one from Luke is also relatively long. Again, I said it in the main episode, but if anybody's going to write in, try and be a little bit brief. I've edited these down, if you can believe. But these are very thoughtful, and I wanted to get them in here in some form or fashion. So Luke says, via contact, the one thing I did spoil for myself in the lead up to Bloodborne was the opening minutes. So Yosefka's clinic and the Hunter's Dream didn't blow my mind at first glance. They just gently caressed it with the alternating directions of scary and serene that the Souls games like to yin and yang between in their openings. I'm sure others will elaborate on just what makes these two areas gritty and gorgeous in equal measure. Outside of the ambience, The clinic seemed a pretty empty place, so I didn't expect to spend much time there once I moved past the lamp. So I took a thorough look on my second trip through, expecting to say goodbye to the gory place, and found the first NPC door hidden back there, and I instantly knew that this game was going to be overwhelming me with obtuse side characters. Besides the effect of progressing the game has on the atmosphere, The Hunter's Dream also has an amazing moment of recursion that I can't really talk about here. Good luck structuring this season. Thank you. That made me look at this hub area in a whole new way. Specifically, it made me look at those distant pillars, those arch trees, in a whole new way. The monocular is too steampunk to function, so it's hard to get a proper glimpse, but it's possible that there are little hills, little green tufts of grass, little rows of graves, and a shed manor up there too. Is this where Gurman goes when you're not doing anything exciting? Does he have other hunters going on the side? Is that where the NPCs use their dolls? Or is it use their dolls, since they nearly all suggest that they no longer dream, maybe by choice, maybe because they were cut off from it? While they maybe lack the mechanical complexity of some of the other opening areas, there is a level of lore and design here that exceeds the initial expectations. There are layers and layers to dig through, even here in these simplest of settings.
Yeah, agreed. This is the most dense setting from kind of the rest of the storyline. Like I remember when we did the Demon Soul setting, we spent some time agonizing, like, what is the Nexus? Mm-hmm. Like, why is this here? Firelink functions as a mechanical safe haven more than it did as a narrative one. Mm-hmm. And Majula, while like I think is probably out of those three is probably the most successful as far as being interesting, mm-hmm. doesn't have an identity before you get there.
Right.
Like it is a space rather than a place. Mm-hmm. You don't... it becomes kind of a warm place as you gather up merchants and NPCs and stuff. But initially, it's just like, what is this weird abandoned seaside town? It's evocative mm-hmm. and beautiful, but it doesn't have a point. This plays into the game in a way that the hub worlds haven't.
Right.
In Souls games.
And the fact that it's established as a dream means that, you're going to be looking at it in terms of symbolism as opposed to, space like you would with, Firelink or Majula, or in terms of function as you would with the Nexus.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah. So, which is very cool.
Yeah. The fact that it carries narrative weight is spectacular.
Mm-hmm. Thanks, Luke. Josh Redding says via Facebook, talk about a way to start a game. Werewolf rising up from the blood pit after you just got a transfusion from a questionable character, at best. The Hunter's Dream was a fascinating nexus. It intrigues with the promise of 4 entirely separate worlds on one side and the dungeons on the other. I spent a good 20 minutes wandering about, looking at every note and slashing with my sword cane. The doll was instantly memorable and fashioned its own personality from the Maiden in Black and the Emerald Herald, which I appreciated. Yeah. And we'll talk about, usually in these seasons when we run into an NPC, we talk about them. We will... The kind of things that turn the doll into an NPC mm-hmm. and turn Yosefka into an NPC don't happen yet.
Yeah.
So we're going to talk about those when they show up.
Yeah.
When those events unlock. But the doll is an NPC that's pretty interesting.
And we'll be careful to avoid spoiling those because those do ratchet kind of step by step.
Yes.
And we will wait until the final big movement in order to kind of extrapolate what each of the parts means.
Yep.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Looking at this here, more stuff specifically about the Hunter's Dream. Vivian writes in via Facebook, the Hunter's Dream is the best hub area in any Souls game, with its unique clash between pastoral coziness and otherworldly creepiness. It's a bit lonelier than Nexus or Firelink Shrine, but that suits Bloodborne just fine. I'm not sure I'd be comfortable inviting any of these NPCs in, anyhow.
Yeah, it doesn't, people don't show up here, which happens in every other hub world.
Yeah.
Which is kind of interesting, but that's not to say it's static. Mm-hmm. I agree. I don't know if it's I have a real soft spot for first seeing Majula. Mm-hmm. I like Majula an awful lot.
Yeah.
I was thinking about this question or this comment. I was thinking I don't know exactly which one's my favorite. I think the Nexus is my least favorite. Mm-hmm. The Nexus is very cool, but it just it's so utilitarian.
Yeah.
So
I like Firelink specifically because of the way they play with the sense of security.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, without getting into too many spoilers, I can't talk about that further.
Yep, I know. I was going to go on with that too, but it's
Yeah. Levi says via contact, the Hunter's Dream, while pretty, is ultimately too vacant. I'm not sure why they chose to keep the player hub and NPC hub separate. When it came to weapon choice, I went with Threaded Cane for 2 reasons. 1, it seemed like it would be fun, and it is. It's an extremely satisfying weapon to use, so much so that I based an entire build around it. 2, it reminded me of the antagonist weapon from the movie Brotherhood of the Wolf. Somebody at From is clearly a fan of that movie because this game pulls a lot of influences from it. Do a Google search, and it is pretty obvious. And we'll put that in the show notes.
Yeah. Okay. Is there more there? Oh, no, there's okay,
no.
Cool. Yeah, so I put in a marker there for that sneeze. Yeah, Brotherhood of the Wolf is coming up a lot in specifically our fans, bringing that to our attention. I've seen it. It's directed by Christoph Gans, the guy who did the Silent Hill movie.
Okay.
I remember not being too terribly impressed, but I don't know if upon watching it now I would appreciate it.
Yeah, I'm interested in that. Perhaps I'll watch that at some point.
Looking at so you two disagree, Levi and Vivienne, and that's why let's do a Maury-esque showdown, I guess.
Yeah.
Adding them onto the line right now? No, let's not do that.
Oh.
Stuart writes in via contact saying, I find the conversation with Garriman very interesting in an English major kind of way. The way he talks about the hunt is directed at the gamer mindset, telling us right off that we're thinking too hard seems like a classic Souls move. It parallels the unsure goals of Dark Souls 2. Actually, a lot of the game seems to be directly set up against Dark Souls 2. Weapon of choice, Threaded Cane. Theme song, Don't Stop Me Now by Queen. Which, I don't know why you decided to include that.
Maybe it's because of the cane beating scene set to that song in Shaun of the Dead.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting that you say it parallels the goals of Dark Souls 2 while the rest of the game is set up against it, because there are kind of more like, and we'll eventually shed this defensiveness, but the urge for the community to shove Dark Souls 2 down the memory hole, I think, is kind of misguided, especially after Scholar and such. And there are a couple other things that this game does borrow from that. Not least of which that sense of, you're the developer telling the player you're going to do things without knowing that why you're doing them. And one pays off more successfully than the other is true, but they're both, it's kind of similar. And then obviously the Threaded Cane, which is the same weapon, more or less from a later thing. But yeah, like it both parallels and plays against it, but it plays against all the Souls games is the thing. Like, that security of the, your Nexus point, and the way that's used, like that doesn't just play against Dark Souls 2, it plays against the entire series. And then the entire way that they tell the story, the way that NPCs operate is different than anything else too.
Yeah. And it's wonderful, especially if you're walking into it with knowledge of the series, because it is using your assumptions against you, much in the same way that like a lot of the games do. So like that is something that they all have in common with each other,
which I definitely dig. Emily says via contact, for me, Bloodborne started off strong in a typical Souls series fashion by mirroring my experiences with my characters. By the time I had control of my character, I felt like a stranger in a strange land with no idea who I was or what I should be doing. So I read the item descriptions on my armor, which told me that I was indeed a stranger in a strange land with no idea who I was or what I should be doing. My character and I fumbled along in the dark together, killing things ineptly until we found our way to the hunter's dream. Gearman wasn't very helpful, but a small discarded note in the corner of the workshop told me that I could escape the dream by halting the source of the spreading scourge of beast. It was the most straightforward piece of advice this game would ever give me. For that reason, it stuck with me, and I was reminded of it every time I visited the workshop and saw it glinting out of the corner of my eye. I imagine that this knowledge gave me, both me and my character, purpose and direction, even though I still have no idea who planted it there or whether I should be listening to their advice in the first place. Yeah. That's well said. I got nothing to add. That.
Yeah, the reliability of information. Yeah. So thank you, Emily. We're moving on to a section that we call Just Fun, and don't worry, nothing's wrong.
Yeah, usually is, but now we're okay.
Yep. But Matt wrote in, and you're going to discover why we're putting this in here. I'm sorry. The motorcycle.
It's okay. Yeah, bad. Matt just pulled up. Hey, bro.
So Matt says, I recently discovered your podcast and I enjoyed the Bloodborne First Impressions installment greatly. Having never played a Souls game, I'm finding your comparisons to the previous titles very helpful in my decision regarding whether or not I want to try Dark Souls 2, Scholar of the First Sin, after finishing Bloodborne. You asked for the perspective of somebody who is playing Bloodborne but has never played a Souls game previously. Short answer, I love it. So far, I've been pleased with my progress. I had a rocky start in the streets of Yharnam. I went down the same path toward the bonfire around 50 times, gradually learning the positions.
Why are you calling it a bonfire if you've never... What happened to you?
It is a bonfire, right?
Oh, I mean, I guess that's true. Like,
yeah, that's more of an effigy burning, but kind of, yeah, they're throwing bodies on the bottom. Yeah.
Yeah, loaded term.
Well, it's only loaded because of, the shit we do.
Yeah.
Yeah. But he worked there around 50 times, gradually learning the positions and patrols of the enemies. As I opened up shortcuts, began to level up, and became accustomed to the combat, something about Bloodborne just clicked. I find myself progressing through the game with a sense of purpose and confidence. Only 2 of the 5 bosses I've defeated have given me any trouble. My fear is that I'm about to sort of hit some kind of wall, either a location too difficult to traverse or a boss too difficult to fell. I love how Bloodborne has, so far, not kept me on a linear path. I have yet to feel boxed in, and I hope I never do. The freedom to explore this wonderful macabre world is the thing that I love most about the game. My absolute favorite thing is the relief of opening a gate that leads back to a lamp after a long, tension-filled trek where there was no quarter. Not having played the Souls games, I find Bloodborne reminds me of other properties. The monster design makes me think of the Vita title Soul Sacrifice. Climbing ladders and opening gates seems very much like Eco. The Victorian Gothic setting makes me look forward to the new season of the underappreciated Penny Dreadful. The costumes, especially those masks and hats, share inspiration with the French flick Brotherhood of the Wolf. I can see shades of Resident Evil and Silent Hill and Bloodborne as well. I think about Bloodborne when I'm not playing it, and I want to be playing it constantly. I've had to exercise an incredible amount of willpower to stay off of the Bloodborne wiki and subreddit. I want to know everything about this game, but I don't want to spoil the experience of uncovering its secrets for myself. I can't believe I wrote so many words when there are more monsters that need to be killed. Now I grab my bloodied but trustworthy axe and take my leave of you.
All right. Thanks, Matt.
Yeah. So like the stuff that you're hitting on loving about it, like, yeah, that's you're seeing it. You're feeling it.
And safely you should play all the other Souls games.
Yeah.
Like just play each one. Mm-hmm. So and that's what you want to do.
I kind of want to hear the experience of going backwards from this and
that would be, yeah.
Yeah, and hear what he thinks of the older Souls combat in contrast to this.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is as big a difference. But those things that you like, you will still like about those games. And and think hopefully stick around and we can tell you everything that happens in this game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and so you can stay off those wikis.
We're happy to have you.
Yeah. And finally, Steven says by contact, I saw on either the Bloodborne or Dark Souls Facebook page, I forget which, that they had posted a poll to fans which IP they liked better. I personally find them almost too different to be compared like that. Granted, they do scratch similar itches that not many other games do, with their lack of hand-holding in story and gameplay. But along with a shift in aesthetic, Bloodborne feels like it has taken a farther lateral step from Dark Souls than Dark Souls has taken from Demon Souls. What are your thoughts? Absolutely. Yeah. Like, this is the most different game in the Quattro.
Yeah, it's not quite apples and motorcycles, but it is apples and ham.
Yeah, exactly. Together at last. Bananas and ham. Delicious bake for your grandma to make.
I just imagine some kind of horrible Jello dish.
Yeah, people make that, man. Banana ham is a real thing. Ugh. That's fucking disgusting. They're very different. It's hard to say. Like, I agree with you as far as comparing them. Like, it definitely makes sense for us to cover it. Mm-hmm. Like, it's not so different. That we covered Lords of the Fallen, for Christ's sakes. But like, it's not. It doesn't feel like the same series. It does feel like a separate IP. Mm-hmm. It does feel like the kind of thing you can prefer one or the other. Mm-hmm. Because like in my way, like that's why they can be compared. Mm-hmm. Like when you say they posted a poll of which IP they like better, I think you can have a preference because they are so different. Mm-hmm. It's one of those things when people say apples and oranges and it's like, can't compare apples and oranges. Well, it's like, well,
they're good for different things.
Like, yeah, one tastes like one thing, the other one tastes like another thing, but you can definitely prefer one or the other. Mm-hmm. Like, it is fine to compare them. Mm-hmm. It's just like they're good for different things, which is what that expression means. But a lot of times people use that expression to mean there's no point in preferring one, mm-hmm. which is not the case.
Yeah,
like you can like one or the other. So I would be interested to see the results of that poll. Mm-hmm. All in all, like, it is still like, this is very fresh in my mind. It is so hard to erase my like Dark Souls 1 experience as not just like looming tall over everything. But I think that each game of the Quatrain kind of does something different in the best way possible that I really like.
Yeah. I mean, the answer to this question, which one do you like, is like the answer to so many questions. It's complicated.
Yeah.
Right. That's all Facebook needs to know about my relationships.
Yeah. That's
No,
all
'cause-
you need to know about my relationship to this game.
yeah, no. So, and I think that in that complication lies all of the interesting things to talk about. And,
Yeah.
the areas where each of them raises up from the other is the area where we can look in and kind of like take note. And I think that free from any overarching, value judgment, which I think is what there's a lot of pressure to like rush to. Like that nuanced conversation is the one that I'm really excited to have.
Yeah. Yeah. Agreed. Yeah. So thanks everybody. It's a big turnout. Hopefully we can keep that going. If you have things to say about Central Yarnum, hit us up at Duckfeed.tv/contact. And the normal things to do, iTunes ratings, reviews, patreon.com/DuckFeed.tv. Hit us up on Facebook, all those things. We really appreciate it.
Yeah. Tell your friends. And here's the thing about these appendix episodes. Sometimes we have deleted scenes.
Yeah, that's the other thing. So it's your thoughts and then our thoughts that are not about the matter at hand. And they're usually pretty brief, but here they are.
I gotcha. Today's a good day. We're recording the first Bloodborne episode.
Yeah. Oh, well, thank you. I'll take that into account and no longer feel cranky about anything else now.
Yeah, I know. I'm just
No, I know.
Yeah, trying to get you cheered up.
I appreciate it. I'm just kidding.
I'm cranky as well. Don't worry.
Been a cranky couple days.
Yeah.
Also, Rory's just caught like a huge fly and ate it, and it grossed me out really good.
Ugh.
Like huge,
Like
like the size of my like pinky.
Ugh, like a horsefly?
I don't know. No, I mean not like that, but like it was just it was big, it was thick.
Was it pinky shaped?
No, it was like the pinky from your knuckle down, like that was a spot.
Yeah.
And it was like an Adonis, and he just took it and like caught it in one swipe, and it was like impaled on his claw.
Oh, Jesus.
He looked at it for a second and then just ate it. It's just really like, I'll thank you that way, buddy.
I will take what's mine. Yeah.
It's weird. Super weird.
Yeah, that's I hate it when a fly's big. I hate it when a fly's big enough that you can see its opalescence.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Ugh.
Flies are gross, man. All
Yeah.
bugs are gross. Butterflies are gross. Like once you get past the wings, they're fucking disgusting.
Yeah. If you
Like-
look at the wings.
And then beetles too. Beetles look cute, and then like once you get under there, it's just Nightmare City.
Yeah. Everything is a horseshoe crab.
Yeah, it's fucking disgusting.
Play Titan Souls. Play that demo.
Titan Souls, is that the one I think it is?
It might be. I don't know. I don't know what you think it is.
Because I think I played. There's a Flash game it's based on where it's like it's one hit death and you have one arrow.
Yes, that is the one.
Yes. Yeah, I played the Flash game for a half hour or so like that. I don't know what they've changed in the real version.
Neither do I. It's very good.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I dig it. I need another like escapism game too. I was playing like last night. I had a very frustrating video game night because I was playing Bloodborne to review this. Started a new character and everything, and I'd just come back from Scholar, so like I was getting used to the systems, and it's really hard to adjust.
Whiplash. Yeah.
And I kept dying, and then I lost one of my A team in Darkest Dungeon.
Oh man.
Sucks. Yeah, which is fine. Like that's what's supposed to happen, and your characters keep advancing, and they can't do old dungeons. So like eventually somebody from the farm league is going to get promoted anyway. But like,
Yeah.
I was mad.
Yeah. Well, it's still a setback.
Just like, just like, come on, not right. And it was the only guy who survived from the tutorial
Oh wow.
or from the first set of groups. Like it was my last original character. So Reynard, poor son of a bitch, died to the Swine King.
We
So.
rest in pieces.
And we all pray that we will have far more soon